Well, it's the final show of the 2025 season. We actually officially get to close the book on 2025, and we talk about 2026 and more coming up on the DNVR Rockies podcast. What's up, everyone? Welcome in. It is a glorious day here in Denver. You've got awesome new swag that you got for Christmas that looks incredible. Yeah,
it's like legit vintage. It's not like a new made fake vintage. She went hunting.
Where did she get that?
I actually don't know. I have to ask her online. But you know the cool thing about Rockies gear, and yes, we had a rough 2025. We're going to talk about that. But if you want to get sick Rockies gear, now is the time to do it.
Yes.
Go to the department stores. Go to your, like if you go down South Broadway, for any of you that live in the Denver area, there's like 10 vintage shops. Guaranteed you're going to find something Rockies in there. And the Rockies as a franchise are old enough now to like 30 years where the 90s stuff is back in style now, but nobody like... These like 75-year-old dudes are like, this is just my opening Rocky stuff. Like my uncle's giving me stuff. I got these sick hats. I'm like, I'll take all of this.
I have this huge puffy like bomber jacket that was my wife's grandpa's jacket, and it's like his Rocky jacket, and I could never wear it because it's so big, and it's just the middle of summer, and
maybe you guys can get in it together.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, so I mean, but it is sitting in my closet, and I'm like, it's one of the coolest pieces of Rockies gear I have. So yeah, we've got a lot to talk about though on the show today. We are, like I said, officially closing the book on the 2025 season, looking ahead to 2026. And with that, we are sharing 26 predictions for 2026 in honor of the 2026 season coming up ahead of us. We did this last year. I should say I did this last year. It was actually before you kind of jumped on full-time to help me with the show. And I wrote up 25 predictions to enter into the 2025 season. And I'm pretty sure I got 75% of them wrong. I had Michael Toglia as a Gold Glove winner. I had Ryan Feltner as the Rockies, winningest starting pitcher. I mean, you can go down. I had Jimmy Herget as like the reliever that fell off the most. Like just the most wrong predictions I could have thought of. But so I was like, I want to do that again. We got to do 26 predictions for 2026.
Well, lucky for you, you brought the homerist Rocky fan of all time into your show. And so these 26 predictions, me and Christian kind of split them up half and half. You'll hear who has what predictions, and you'll be able to tell, even if we don't tell you, which ones are my predictions, because they're definitely more pro. And then Christians aren't necessarily, doom and gloom and world is ending, but you're more realistic on this situation. And I was seeing through, I did this all with my purple glasses.
We were talking about this yesterday when we started coming up with a list. And I was going through my predictions from last year and realizing how wrong I was on so many of them. And so I'm like, okay, I need to like almost overcorrect a little bit. I gotta like chill out. I was too optimistic last year. The Rockies leveled me back out. So,
but to be fair, and we talked about this off show yesterday. How many of your predictions were wrong because a guy got injured? Won't. You can talk shit about yourself, which is fine and it's funny, but I won't go too hard on you on some of the ones where if a guy gets hurt in April or May and doesn't play most of the year, like anything Tovar did or anything Feltner, same scenario. Like, yes, the Rockies were still bad, and yes, they had a lot of guys not underperform what they were supposed to do, but there was a lot of injuries that factored into that, and none of these predictions we do we're ever thinking an injury is going to happen. You just don't want to think that.
Of course. But, a lot of them were still wrong, even beyond the injury thing. Real quick, before we dive into the predictions, because we've got, again, 26 predictions that we got to get into. I wanted to touch on something really fast that I think we missed on our last show last week. I see it was Lefty in the chat said, go to Rockies Fan Fest and stock up. Fan Fest was announced, the dates, times, all of that kind of stuff was announced. You can head to Rockies.com to figure out all that specifics. But there was an interesting part about it that I thought I was reading about that I missed when we were doing our show. I don't know if you saw this, but the Rockies at Fan Fest this year are making members of the front office available to answer questions from fans, which I thought was shocking, given how, I don't know, how closed door this organization has been for years. And so we've talked about this plenty of times before. I mean, obviously we had Walker Monfort on the show, which we've said time and time again, step in the right direction for ownership, for the front office, of being more transparent. But the fact that the Rockies ownership and front office is saying, hey, we're going to put ourselves in front of the fans, a fan base that's probably pretty upset, and we're going to answer questions and we're going to kind of face the fire a little bit. Kudos to the Rockies for doing that, because that's huge.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to go to Fan Fest for sure. And I think we'll get some great content out of some fan questions.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Asking the fact that they get to actually ask the front office questions is pretty insane. And I was just looking at, so it's January 24th. There's a Rockies garage sale. There's a kids activities, which I'm going to love for my son. They've got a Family Feud game, a golf simulator. You get a photo op with Hunter Goodman Silver Slugger Award, and player autograph sessions. And the players right now scheduled to appear: Agnos, Beck, Blaylock, Dolander, Brenton Doyle, Kyle Freeland, Tyler Freeman, Hunter Goodman, Tanner Gordon, Seth Halverson, Jaden Hill, Mickey Moniak, Ryan Ritter, and Victor Vodnik. So should be pretty cool for those of you guys that are still hanging on. And that's actually a great question too. We should see if we could do that.
That would be fun.
Sick.
That'd be cool.
Do a live broadcast from Rockies Fest, but it just it signals more of a change.
Yeah.
The fact that you would have never seen Bill Schmidt hop up there and answer anything from any of the Rockies fans. And so this gives them, they're taking a fresh start. It's a whole new front office, and it gives those guys a chance to answer some of the questions that people want to ask. And they're probably going to give you a lot of boilerplate answers, but the fact that they're doing it, it shows significant growth in the fact that they're facing the music for what this team has been. But also, you know, I hope the fans realize that these guys that you're going to talk to, the Josh Burnses and the Paul DePodestas and even Warren Schaefer, kind of, they had nothing to do with what happened the last 3 to 5 years. Now, Walker Monfort, different story. Anybody that's been around, fine. But keep that in mind. If you've got a question, and I'm not saying you can't be rude, and I'm not saying you can't be honest about how this team has gone the last 4 or 5 years, but these guys are here to change that. So change your mind, change the gears in your mind to think that way, that these guys didn't have anything to do with it. They're just here to clean up the mess.
Yeah. And hopefully we start to see some stuff with that coming out in the next season. That's kind of what 2026 is for me. If I had to give, and we're going to talk about our New Year's resolutions, all that kind of stuff later in the show. But if I had to give kind of one word to describe what I hope 2026 is for the Rockies, it's learning. I want to learn what this front office plans to do. I want to see what direction they're headed, what the pitching philosophy is, like all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I'm excited to see that. Dinger's Burner says some fans going to bring up KB, and I can't wait for the response. I agree. I actually think that's a great question to come from a fan, because I think the Rockies are tired of hearing from us, the media, asking those questions, and we have to ask them. But no one's giving us any good answer. But I'm curious what they say to the fans. That'd be a good question. But we're running out of time. We got a lot to talk about today. 26 predictions for 2026. The first one I submitted as a start of this 26 predictions, and I'm going a little, I don't know. I don't have my purple tinted glasses on for this take. I predict as my first prediction that the Rockies will lose 100 games again this year. And before everyone jumps on me, I want to just say this. Look, from what we saw last year to what we see this next year, as of now, there's nothing really different. You have an entirely new front office that looks completely different. That, again, I just mentioned, I hope we learn more from the moves that are made, the way they handle 2026, that we can take into 2027 and beyond. But this team isn't going anywhere in 2026. We already know that. I do think, yes, you might have a couple people healthy, but if you look at their record last year, you look at them losing, 119 games, it's really hard to make up a 20-game gap year in and year out when you're not really changing a lot of things from an actual roster standpoint. So I do think first prediction from my perspective is I'm preparing for it now. I do think they're going to lose 100 games, but I think we'll learn a lot from what this season tells us that we can take into 2027 and go from there.
Yeah, and Walker told us on the show a couple weeks ago that the goal, obviously, we've our local Broncos beat reporter Zach Stevens has made it a pretty national news with messing up, Sean Payton's first goal and then correcting himself. Now Sean's replying to him on Twitter. So Rockies' first goal is to not lose 100 games. Yes, that's semi-loser mentality, but it's the reality of where they're at right now.
Yeah.
And so that will be something that, if they go 60 and 102, that's a gigantic improvement. Still 100 losses, 17, but if you see 17 more wins than we got last year, it's a gigantic improvement. But a lot of what we watch won't be the results of the game. It'll be who's playing, why are they playing, how are you trying to play at Coors Field, how are you trying to pitch at Coors Field.
Who could be traded, what systems are we seeing in place.
There's so many different options that they could go this season, and there's so many ways that they're just going to be they're not, they're starting off the path walking into this massive forest where they have to cut down the first few trees. The goal is way, miles deep in the forest, but you got to start somewhere, and this 2026 season will kind of be how it looks. My first prediction for 2026, the Rockies will have a 20 save pitcher. And I believe that they're going to get close to that 60 wins. So a third of those you're going to need. And this is mostly just me hoping that they, just much like the entire season, they stick in a realm. They stick with a guy.
Yeah.
They go, and granted, last year there was injuries to Agnos, there was injuries to Halverson, there was injuries to Vodnik. So there were injuries
aside
derailed that. Yeah. But injuries aside, I want them to, whether it's Halverson or Vodnik or whoever, stick to a closer, have a guy that comes in, and if you have some leads, whether it's at Coors Field or on the road, they actually hold them. And I think the Rockies can get a guy with 20 saves.
Absolutely. I don't think that's that far out of the picture either. 20 saves is nothing groundbreaking. The Rockies had 25 wins at home last year. If you can find a guy that, like you said, is consistently healthy, 20 saves is not out of the question. Number 3, from me, this one, the Rockies will win their first game of the season. March, what was it, 27th? It's a day after everyone.
Friday in Miami.
Yes. I think they'll win their first game of the season.
They haven't lost in Miami in 2 years. They swept them last year in Miami. They haven't lost in Miami since 2024.
But if you remember last year too, the Rockies should have won their first game of the year last year, and Bud Black took Kyle Freeland out way too early after, what was it, like 60 pitches or something like that? And the Rockies ended up losing because their bullpen sucked, and that's the way it happened. So I predict that they will win the first game of the season. You got number 4.
Number 4, Ezekiel Tovar will be in the top 3 in doubles in the National League.
I think that would be huge. If there's one guy in this entire roster for the Colorado Rockies that needs to have a bounce back season, needs to have not even a bounce back season, a breakout season, it's Tovar. I was actually listening to our buddies over at Blake Street Manor this morning. They had one of their shows, and Tyler was saying that Tovar's like one of those guys that, you don't hate having him on your team, but you also aren't like excited to have Tovar on your team right now. Like, he has high potential, but he's not really moving the needle. And yes, he was dealing with injuries last year. And yes, he had a Gold Glove, the youngest Gold Glove shortstop in NL history the year before that. So there's good opportunity with him, but he hasn't moved the needle yet. Him having 20 doubles with, a step up defensively would be huge.
Yeah, and that's one of the key positions. Like, if you have a good shortstop, that kind of sets your infield. And the Rockies have had good shortstops in the years. They've had Troy Tulowitzki, and they've had guys that have been a solid guy at and hitting in the middle of the lineup too. I mean, Tovar's not your, former AL shortstop that plays really good defense that hits ninth. Like, he should be in the 2, 3, or 4 hole all season long if he's healthy and hitting a lot of doubles, maybe 14 to 20 home runs. And that's a great season for him. Honestly, it would be, either way, it'll just be nice to hopefully see Tovar play 140 plus games. Cause then we're like, all right, is he a trade piece? Is he a piece that you can move forward with? Or is he a guy that you have to keep on your roster because he's an all-star and he's a shortstop that brings you Gold Glove defense and hits well enough, especially at Coors Field, to be a staple in your lineup?
Yeah. Well, I want to get to number 5 here, but we got to hit our first break. After the break, though, number 5 on the prediction list is something that I had predicted last year that did not work out, but I'm going to go back to the well one more time to see if it works out this year. We'll talk about that coming up in just a moment. Well, I want to give a huge shout out right now to our friends at Taco Bell. It is Taco Tuesday officially here at DNVR. You and I got to just chow down on a little quesadillas before the show.
Yep.
For Taco Tuesday, every Taco Tuesday, we actually before the Broncos show, we actually get an order of Taco Bell, and we get to kind of chow down, try some of the different menu items, and you just can't go wrong with Taco Bell. They have their new Cantina menu, so if you're someone who likes chicken like me, awesome thing to do. But really, you just can't go wrong with Taco Bell. I was traveling out of town this last week for the holidays, and I'm pretty sure I had Taco Bell like 5 times. It's a good travel food.
It's
as well.
a great travel food. Yeah, it's when you're in a car and you're going somewhere and you see the drive-through.
Yeah.
And then I also had from Taco Bell on Saturday the new midnight
Mountain
Dew or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Great, love it.
I'm a sucker for that. I can't drink too many, but I love them.
It's a nice treat. It's a nice treat. Well, and also your local Colorado Taco Bell restaurants would love to hear from you guys, the fans, which student athletes you would like to see featured on their collector cups coming up for the 2026 football season. Put your comments in the chat. Let us know what you think deserves to be featured next year. We love the Bell. Also want to give a shout out to our friends at Dick's Sporting Goods, because I know the holidays are over, but there are still good deals happening over at Dick's Sporting Goods. You can head over to any of your local stores, and they've got great deals. Great deals on merch. You got DNVR merch that's sold there. Also just different sporting apparel, sports gear. Anything you can ask for, you can get at Dick's. They've got great brands like Nike, Adidas, FP Movement, and like I said, DNVR, our personal favorite as well. So whether you are maybe trying to go take advantage to them of those last minute deals, or maybe you are like my wife, who actually got a handful of gift cards for Christmas to Dick's Sporting Goods, you could just go and grab something great. They have so many great options there. So get your gear fast with free curbside pickup at your nearest store or easy shipping at Dicks.com, because every season starts at Dick's. All right. Continuing on our train of 26 predictions, we're going to have to probably speed this up. 26 predictions for 2026. Number 5, Ryan Feltner will be comeback player of the year. Now that's subjective. There's no comeback player of the year officially from a team to team's perspective. But I do think from our perspective, if we're evaluating it on the show, I think he could be someone that we could say, yeah, he was a comeback player of the year when 2026 wraps up.
Yeah, just having him in the rotation will be a huge get for the Rockies, just of a guy that's already on your roster. And we heard them so many times at winter meetings continue to mention the guys on the roster and becoming better or just becoming healthy. And there was a 2 to 3 start stretch where I was like, if we get this Ryan Feltner, this is a massive upgrade from a lot of the other guys we have to throw on the mound. Yeah, and I'm also saying this kind of out of similar Tovar situation where I'm like, we need him to step up and have a good bounce back season. You need all the starting pitching you can get. You got number 6. Number 6, the Rockies will trade and I put in quotes, core piece at the deadline.
Brendan Doyle.
So the core is kind of subjective to anyone that's a Rockies fan, but I consider that to be like Jordan Beck, Brenton Doyle, Ezekiel Tovar, Hunter Goodman, and maybe a Kyle Freeland, something like that. Like the core Rockies that have been around for a couple of years.
True starters, legitimate starters.
Yes, guys that if the Rockies, if you just said, hey, we had to put a starting lineup together tomorrow or one Thursday on January 1st of 2026, these are the 9 guys that would start. Though most of those guys, I believe one will be traded at the deadline. And I think the deadline has sped up. The Rockies have done a little bit more the last couple of years. Now it's a whole new regime, but I anticipate them doing a lot at the deadline this year.
Are you putting Mickey Moniak in that core category?
Yes. Mickey Moniak is I believe they'll trade an outfielder. It might be Tovar, it might be Goodman, but this prediction centers around them clearing some room in the outfield that seems very crowded. Could be Tyler Freeman, which I consider kind of a core piece of this team right now with how many at-bats he had last year and how many places he played.
Yeah, totally. Number 7, the Rockies will start the season at first base. Now, I'm not saying I want this to happen, and this is nothing against Blaine Crim. I just think the Rockies are in a situation right now. It doesn't seem like they're going too aggressive. Now, there's plenty of free agents still available, especially at first base. But they haven't really been that aggressive in any of the roster moves right now. And I think they're going to wait and see. I think this is going to be we're going to wait and see. We're going to see what Blaine Crim looks like. We're going to see what Charlie Condon looks like in spring training. And we're just going to kind of let it play out. We'll start with Blaine Crim. I don't think he'll be the guy that's there at the end, but I think they'll start with him.
Yeah, and I think that's a safe bet. He gave us some great memories in September. So Crim de la Crim is back at the Rockies first base spot starting 2026. Number 8, and Luke actually had this prediction as well. So, and he's one of my guys that is on this. So I believe the Rockies will have two 2020 guys. And one of them is, just like Luke said, Jordan Beck. Beck is a 2020 guy. And I believe if he's a Rocky for the entire year, I think Brenton Doyle's a 2020 guy as well. I think the Rockies will. I agree. There's a prediction here, but I think they'll get a lot more aggressive on the base paths because they do have some guys that can move. I mean, even Mickey Moniak, who's not, you don't think of him as fast, but the Rockies have a good amount of players, the Ritters, the Doyles. Like, there's a lot of players on this team that I think could steal bases, and I think that's something they're going to try to do. Yeah,
and it kind of leans into, you're talking about guys who could possibly go 2020. We saw Doyle do that a couple years ago. My next prediction, which is Brenton Doyle will have a good bounce back season and possibly be in the All-Star conversation. Brenton Doyle will be in the All-Star conversation is my prediction, or make the All-Star game if you want to go that far. We know his defense is good, and we're just waiting on his bat, and we have seen moments of his bat looking really good. I think he is at least in that conversation. We know he's one of the best center fielders in all of baseball. He's just got to get his bat to catch up, and we've seen chunks of the season where that's happened. I think that's on the table.
Okay, real quick. I'm not going to derail us too much. If Brenton Doyle is an all-star,
trade him.
Okay, that answers my question. I was going to say, you
sell as high as possible.
Hang on to him because he's a future piece of the team. Nope. You say trade him.
Nope. Okay. I'm saying I'm in the trade Brenton Doyle camp now. If Brenton Doyle becomes an all-star, I'd say that's the best case scenario for the Colorado Rockies. You ship him off somewhere else, and you get 3 solid prospects and maybe a major leaguer out of that. So that would be best case scenario. Number 10.
Number 10. The Rockies will finish April with an 8-24 record. So 32 games from the end of March to April. I still do believe they maybe start the season 2-1 in Miami. They win a couple games there, but this April schedule is absolutely treacherous. I think it's every single team that was in the playoffs. I don't believe there's one team. I was looking through it yesterday as I was trying to pick how many guys are winning or how many games they're going to win.
No,
but it's an absolute disaster.
I actually think there's a good chance the Rockies don't win more than 5 games in the month of April, and 8 would be great. I'll take 8-24.
8 is including the March. Yeah. It's through April, so I included March. I included the
Kansas City Royals and Diamondbacks and
yeah. So they've got at the Marlins, then they go at the Blue Jays to start the season. Phillies, Astros, Padres, Astros, Dodgers, Padres, Mets, Reds, like literally all these teams. And that's April. That's your April. Yeah. You're toast, man. Yeah. That's not good. Not a good way to start.
No, I agree. Number 11, the Rockies will not draft a pitcher with the 10th overall pick in the MLB draft. Now, remember, they have the 10th pick because they can't have anything beyond that because of anti-tanking rules. I think they will end up drafting another position player.
Yeah, they loaded up last year. I think it was their last 11 straight picks were all pitchers. Mm-hmm. They traded 2 Ryan McMahon and Jake Bird for another 3 pitchers from the Yankees system that are on their way up. Brody Brecht is at single A, double A this year. Like, I think not that they don't always need pitchers, but I agree with that. I think they're going to start to get the bats going again.
Yeah. And they love to draft deep into their rounds with pitchers, and hopefully now we have a system that can develop those pitchers a little bit better.
The number 12, the Rockies will have a top 20 ERA for relievers. Now, I was very specific about that. I didn't say team ERA. I didn't say over the whole season, but I do believe, and the Rockies have told us as much, Warren Schaefer, Paul DePodesta, that the bullpen is good, Rockies level good, and they were 29th last year at a 5.18 bullpen ERA. So I think finishing 19-20, you're right around 4.8, 4.7 ERA. I think that's a fair ERA. And the Rockies bullpen doesn't have to be that great, especially if you play the way the old Rockies teams have played at Coors Field. But when you do get those leads, let's hang on to them.
Yeah.
And Senzatella may hose this. Maybe if he gets one start, we move him to the starting realm, and then he...
But again, I was listening to Blake Street Banner's show earlier, and they were talking about the bullpen, and they were saying, the guys above Senza are not bad. Like, I mean, the bullpen is really the only place where, I mean, we talked to Josh Burns in Orlando, and he was like, I'm excited about having this bullpen to work with, whether it's from a trade perspective or just from a winning games. You have actual Major League Baseball pitchers in your bullpen. The Rockies actually have a decent bullpen, and that's something to enjoy a little bit, despite what their ERA actually says. Number 13, I think I might lose Luke on this one because I know Luke is a huge Jordan Beck fan. I think Jordan Beck loses his outfield spot in 2026. I don't want this to happen. I'll say that. I love Jordan Beck, and this is nothing against what I think his potential is, but his inconsistency has been unfortunate. He went months without even hitting a home run last year, and yes, I know he came back after he was sent back down and went on a tear offensively for his first month. But I just need to see more consistency from him until I've seen that. I even put in quotations, maybe totally a decline. I'm hoping that's not the case. I think Jordan Beck has great potential. He's got a ton of power. He's a 2020 guy if he gets going. He's obviously fine in the outfield. I just need to see more. If there's a guy that I think declines next year that we aren't really talking about, I think it's Jordan Beck.
Well, yeah, we've seen it with the Rockies now 3 straight years where a guy has a semi-breakout year. Mm-hmm. Now, Beck had a weird year because he was in AAA and then back and then tore it up, got national attention for a 5-game span. Yeah. But there's always been a guy that declines, and he's kind of him and Hunter Goodman. But Hunter Goodman, I believe, is too good to have that decline. Yeah. So Beck kind of is right in that realm of like, we thought we had this guy, and then there's a chance that it's not what you thought it was.
Yeah,
the whole season.
And the other part of it too is if Jordan Beck does decline, you have other options of depth, so to speak, depth in the outfield that you can turn to. You can give Zach Veen another chance. You can, you can kind of try to answer some other questions while Beck's figuring it out. So that was number 13.
Number 14, the starting second baseman, September 1st, if they have a game September 1st, is going to be Rock Riggio.
There's no way.
Rock Riggio will start. No way. He will become the Rockies starting second baseman by the end of this season.
That's got to be one of the hottest takes on this entire prediction.
Well, the thing is with me is right now, and they could blow this all up by a Tyro Estrada like signing late into spring training or right before. But to me, I don't believe in Adael Almador. Ryan Ritter's kind of a tweener. You don't really know where to play him. He's kind of a major leaguer, kind of not. You have Tyler Freeman, technically, I think they mentioned us in winter meetings. He can play second base, but they don't have a guy. They don't have a second baseman. And so Rock Riggio came over from the trade last year at the deadline. I think I hope this prediction comes true by September, but if not, I think Rock Riggio is the guy going into 2027 as you're like, oh, this is our starting second baseman.
Yeah, I mean,
it's clear.
Yeah, and I'll clarify my reaction. I have nothing against Rock Riggio. I think he's a great player and could end up being a future starter, but I just don't think he's there yet. I think it's going to take a little bit longer. I think Rock Riggio, if you were to call him up within this year, and we haven't seen him play a full minor league season with the Rockies yet, but I think he's another Ryan Ritter. I think that's what you end up seeing. Ritter, to me, showed the same promise in the minors that we've seen out of Rock Riggio. I just see another Ryan Ritter. That's kind of all I see from that. But could be that could be fun. I've heard that he's a very fun guy to play with. I've heard that he's got a ton of energy. He's teammates love him. I've heard, like Burner says, I've heard he's a dog. So I'm not against it, but I just don't think it'll happen. I don't think it'll happen. Number 15. This one I actually really feel strongly about. Hunter Goodman will end up DHing roughly 50% of his games.
Wow, you put that at 15 too. That's Hunter Goodman's number. Mm-hmm. That's just like
little Easter egg
right little there. Easter egg in there. Yeah. I'm okay with this as long as his bat's in the lineup. And we talked to Warren Schaefer about that at winter meetings. I don't want to have as many crash outs when we get the lineup cards each day and wonder what the is going on with who's playing. That I think that happened a lot last year. And yes, it's a young team. You got a lot of injuries last year. You got a lot of guys that you don't even know if they're MLB players yet. Yeah. But Hunter Goodman, we know now, all-star, silver slugger. I don't care. Like, yes, you want to be careful with him, but at the same time, let's get this guy 35 bombs. Let's get him 120 RBIs. That he's capable.
Let's get him the next extension. Yes. Let's have him be the next guy that the Rockies extend.
Get that guy as many at bats, and I'm cool with that. 50 games DHing. You have Braxton Fulford playing 50% of the games at catcher. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, all of this comes down to Braxton Fulford. I think if the Rockies had it their way, if they could choose, Braxton Fulford would be the primary catcher from a catching perspective, as long as his bat is good enough to be in the lineup, and then you'd have Hunter Goodman DHing. The Rockies don't want Goodman to be the main catcher. They just have to because he's not going to play anywhere else. So if they can get him, and Warren Schaefer talked to us about that in Orlando, if you can get him catching more or get him DHing more and comfortable DHing more, that opens up a lot more opportunities. at that catcher spot, putting Braxton there or putting someone else in that same spot. So I think they really push for that 50%, roughly 50% of the games. I could be wrong, but I'm really thinking that's one of the ways they go. We got to pause real fast for our next break. After the break, though, we wrap up this 26 predictions for 2026. All right. Simple enough. All right. Hunter Goodman end up DHing roughly 50% of his games. That's prediction number 15. What you got for 16?
16. Blank will lead the Rockies in wins as a starting pitcher, or just wins in general. Chase Dollander. I really think
we need that.
Yes.
We need that to happen.
We need that. I think that he needs to have a season where he pitches the whole year. He sticks, he finds a little bit more of the strike zone, because we knew that was a big issue. Like, the stuff is not the issue. It's finding the strike zone and using your stuff to be the dominant pitcher that you were drafted to be, that you've been developed to be, that you're a top prospect for years and years. And I don't think he'll get an opening day start, but I do think that he'll be at least top 3 in the rotation by the time it comes out and get enough starts. And if he gets 30 starts and he's healthy all year, I could see him sniffing double-digit wins, maybe 10 wins with his stuff.
It's one of those predictions that you're like, we're willing this into existence. It's got to happen. Real quick, Felix, I wanted to put that in my predictions. I just didn't have room. How many ejections does Warren get this year? I was going to say 4. I think he'll end up getting 4.
Under. So we'll set the over under at 3.5. You'll take the over. I'll take the under.
I'll take the over. He's not going to get ejected very, regularly. It's not like he's going to be one of those top guys, but he's going to make him count when he does. All right, moving down the list. Number 17, this one's a little bit smaller, but Rockies attendance will actually increase in 2026. I think what the Rockies have done from an optics standpoint, from a PR standpoint, has slightly improved their image to other Rockies fans. I think people who have been on the fence, like your brother, who've been kind of tuned out for a while, can see that this organization is on paper caring a little bit more, trying to fix things. And I think that will ease the tension from some fans. I think you'll get a little bit more. Now, again, the wins aren't going to be there. I already predicted that the Rockies will still lose 100 games, but they had 31,000 fans on average in 2024. Last year it went down to 30,000. I think they'll go back up to around 31,000.
Yeah, I think you're going to always have the people that just love to go to Coors Field and love the bar at Coors Field and love the atmosphere. But I think a lot of the Rockies fans that I think there's more out of, like, they'll sell tickets out of curiosity, I think, this year. I think if they start doing some things in a completely different way than they have the past 10, 15, 30 years since their existence, I think a lot of people that were mad at them last year and have been the past couple of years, which is completely valid, will go to some games to say, all right, like, I want to see what they're trying to build here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, could be.
Number 18, the Rockies will steal 110 bases in 2026. They stole 87 in 2025. That 110 number would still put them middle of the pack, top 10, 15 in the MLB. But I do believe, like I said earlier, with Brenton Doyle, Jordan Beck, I think the Rockies will try to put more pressure on pitchers, especially at Coors Field. And they have enough guys that can get on base enough and fast enough to steal bags. So I think they're going to make that a focus this year is let's put some pressure on the opposing pitcher, not just in the batter's box, but around the bases as well.
Yeah, I love that. Mine for number 19, a game will get canceled due to snow. The last time a game was officially canceled on paper, not just like, delayed or whatever, actually canceled on paper due to snow, was May of 2022. So it's been a while.
Well, we haven't gotten any snow yet. So I would anticipate that March, April, May is going to be pretty nasty. I just hope that April 2nd or whatever, maybe it's the 6th, whatever day opening day is, that we'll go down to Lodo.
It has to be like 80 degrees.
Yeah, at least have it be like 40s. At least 40s or 50s and the sun's out here in Colorado. That's a livable opening day.
Yeah, put some layers on and you'll be good. You got number 20.
Number 20, the Rockies will have 6 players make their major league debut in 2026. Down from a dozen in 2025. So
cutting in half.
Yeah, cutting in half. And after I made this prediction, I got a little concerned because that means they're maybe hamstringing or playing guys that shouldn't be played. But at the same time, I think they have a little bit more of a solidified plan going into this year of just because a guy has a bad 10-game stretch doesn't mean we're going to bench him. We're going to see a 50 to 100-game stretch. We're going to see 100 to 200 at-bats and see really what this guy's about before we cut ties. And they've shown that they cut ties with Tolia. They cut ties with Warring Bernabel. There's guys that actually made whether it was this year or last year, made waves in the MLB, and then they just said, see you later. So I think 6 guys this year making their major league debut, and one of them is a prediction later on.
Yeah. I predict for number 21, a Rockies pitcher will throw a complete game. Now, the reason I predict this isn't because the Rockies have a bunch of pitchers who I think can throw complete games from a talent perspective, but Warren Schaefer, I think one of his biggest regrets from last year, from a acute standpoint, was pulling Kyle Freeland out when he had the complete game shutout. I mean, I think he kicks himself about that to this day. He talked about it literally right after the game, where he said probably shouldn't have done that, right? Like, I mean, within minutes after the game finished, he was like, I shouldn't have pulled Kyle Freeland. I think if Warren Schaefer's in a situation where you've got a guy going 8 innings, has gone through 8 innings, and there's a chance to go a full 9 innings, especially if a shutout's involved, he'll let him.
Yeah, well, and now you got to believe too that when you look at the entire Rockies organization, like holistically, where Warren Schaefer is now, he's got a fresh start with this whole new front office. So now he is a little, I would imagine, a little bit more comfortable in his job.
Yeah.
And he has been working with Josh Burns and with Paul DePodesta this whole offseason, talking about strategy, talking about all this stuff. Whereas last year, he wasn't even the manager. It was
Interim,
Bud Black doing all of that stuff. And then he was the interim. So I feel like Warren Schaefer, whether fans like it or not, or whether people want to call it loser mentality for keeping him or not, I think he'll be able to be more comfortable in his job this year and be able to do, whether he's good or not, we'll see, but he'll be able to do a better job than he did last year with the comfortability and the hands-on approach that the new front office has had with him. I think he can be better as a manager and make some more veteran manager decisions versus like fighting for his job, not knowing what's going on decisions.
Yeah, 100%.
All right. Hunter Goodman will have the Rockies triple crown of leading the team in hits, RBIs, and home runs.
Yeah, easy. I don't think if Hunter Goodman has the season we expect him to, I think that's on the table. Number 23. This one's an interesting one, and it comes from a couple conversations we had in Orlando with some guys talking about Charlie Blackmon specifically and his future with the organization. But I predict that Charlie Blackmon will begin to get more involved with the organization as a coach, whether it be in the minors. I don't think it'll be in the majors, but I think he'll start to coach in the minor leagues. I think we'll see that happen in 2026.
And I think the Rockies will be a better team for it.
Absolutely.
I think getting his basically one of the best Rockies of all time in the current era. You got the Walkers and the Heltons, but they played so long ago. You have a completely new way of baseball, and Charlie Blackmon's played through that. He's been an all-star through that, and I think he's a huge help can be a huge help to the team.
And from the conversations we had in Orlando, it sounds like he's itching to get back. It sounds like he's not content, beside from spending time with his family, not content just kind of sitting around twiddling his thumbs. So sounds like that could be on the horizon. For the next one, number 24, I think you've got these two back to back.
Back to back. The Rockies will win 10 more home games than in 2025, where they won 25 games. So
35.
I think 35 games at home. It's still a losing record, but 35 games at home. If they win, almost half of their games at home, that attendance number you said, 30,000 going up to maybe 31, 32, and later in the year or middle of the year, 33, 34. Like the Rockies have always been a good home team for their records, is what I'm saying. Like they haven't had good records, but when they win 80 games, 55 of those are at home. They're not the greatest road team because of the Coors Field and the way it is. So winning more games at home would just be more fun for the fan base. Yes, you're going to watch the games on TV and watch them lose. There's going to be a point this year where they lose 5 or 6 on the road in a row, and you're
never more than
this
8.
Is terrible. Never more than 8. But at home, at least being a more fun baseball team, scoring more runs, putting more pressure on the other teams, and winning a few more home games, I think will continue the build of goodwill that they've started this offseason.
Absolutely. And I think there's a guy on this list who could help with that.
Number 25, Charlie Condon will hit a big league home run at Coors Field this season. September, he will be there.
I'd feel happy. I'd feel happy about the season, no matter what else happens. That's a stretch, but that would be huge because that means that Charlie Condon is playing at a big league level, which means he progressed through spring training, through probably starting the year in Hartford, and did good enough throughout all of that to warrant a big league shot. And not only that, hit a home run. I don't expect this to be the year of Charlie Condon. I'd love it if it was. But if he can get his first taste of a big league field, a big league lineup, get kind of that out from under him, be one of those 6 guys you predicted making his debut, I think that's good. I know some people are like, oh, wait, let it happen. Let it, let him wait. Don't rush it. I don't think the Rockies need to rush Charlie Condon, but I do think there's something to be said about a less pressure-filled debut where your team, it's, September, July even, and your team is very far from being in playoff contention, and you say, hey, we'll give this guy some looks.
Yeah, rushing him would have been playing him last year.
Sure.
And they didn't do it. This is, if he comes up in the middle of the season, whether it's he earns it, and that's the other thing that we heard from the front office in Orlando. I don't think Charlie Condon will be called up just because he's Charlie Condon, the 3rd overall pick that was when he was drafted, everybody's like, oh my God, he's going to hit so many home runs at Coors Field.
Yeah.
Charlie Condon's going to have to earn his spot. And so if he does get the spot in September, that means that, knock on wood, there wasn't a ton of injuries. It was because he played in Hartford and played in Albuquerque and was so good that you're like, we have to call this guy up.
100%. The final prediction, 26 predictions for 2026. Friday Rooftop Club will have a 700 winning percentage. The Rockies will be 700 roughly with Friday Rooftop Club. Do you remember what our record was last year?
I believe it was 667.
Yes,
so it was
just around 700.
4-2.
Yep.
So this year they got to go 5-1 on Friday Rooftop Clubs. I can't wait for those again because those are a blast. If you guys weren't there last year, don't know what it is. Once a month, we'll put the schedule out actually here pretty soon since the Rockies schedule is out. Once a month, we go on a Friday. We all go to, whether it's Tom's before the game or the rooftop bar, we hang out. We just have a big DNVR Rockies contingent. We all watch the game together, and we got the 17-16 win over the Pirates last year. We got some great wins.
We had the win number 40,
win number 43,
or 42.
Win number 42 that didn't break the record or broke the record, so they didn't
avoided
have the record. Avoided the record. Friday Rooftop Clubs are a blast.
Dude,
I can't wait.
Some of my favorite, I'm not even just being a company man and talking about this. Like some of my favorite memories from last year was watching those games because we were fortunate enough to have some of the coolest games, some of the best games of the year happen while we were all up there. But yeah, it was a good time. So yeah, 26 predictions for 2026. We are going to be putting this. I know we don't put out a lot of articles, if any, really, but I am going to put this into an article, publish it on DNVR, thednvr.com. And so we will have this in writing, officially published, so that you guys can actually go back and check this, so we can check this. One of my favorite things to do is in 2027, we're going to go back and we're going to look back and see how many we were right and how many we were wrong. And hopefully it was better than last year, because mine last year were not good, not good at all. But this is good. I think this is a relatively even. I threw some negative ones in there to kind of balance us out, but I think we're a little even, neutral. Neutral is probably the wrong word.
We're taking a little bit of a homer piece and being optimistic that these
That's
Rockies will perform. But none of us said that, Blaine Crim's going to have a Shohei Ohtani season. Like it's not, we didn't go crazy. These are all very realistic goals and predictions.
Hey, and you never know. I mean, the Rockies turned to triple play last year. Like there's been some crazy things. Baseball is a crazy sport and we love it. So, we're going to pause for our last break of the show. After the break, best and worst of 2025 and our New Year's resolutions. That's what we're wrapping up the season and the year with coming up after this quick break. All right. It is the last 15 minutes of 2025 for the DNVR Rockies podcast, at least. And we got to do best and worst of 2025. Now, there's a lot that you can go down the list on. I didn't actually even write out a list. We're just going to kind of fire this off by memory. But it is crazy to think back to this time last year, January 1st, 2025, when we were starting up, the year. I mean, everything looked so different. Bud Black was the manager. You had, Bill Schmidt as the general manager. Dick Monfort was seemingly very involved at the time. You had Tyro Estrada getting signed as your big free agent in the offseason. You had
a Nolan Jones for Tyler Freeman trade,
which hadn't even happened yet. I mean, at the time it was still, January 1st, but I get what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, but that's what I mean. Like it looked so different. And so this leads me to my point that I wanted to make. I actually think 2025 despite losing 119 games, one of the worst seasons we've ever seen in the history of baseball, I think 2025 was one of the most important years and important seasons in Colorado Rockies franchise history, because I think it was so bad that there was no hiding from it. There was no complacency. There was no neutrality of this organization saying we're just comfortable living within mediocrity. It was a national embarrassment. And we know, and you guys know, because we're all sickos here, we watched every second of it. And it was a national embarrassment. And it caused at least from the top down that we've seen so far, massive changes to the organization. You have now no longer Dick Monfort involved from a decision-making process. You have Walker Monfort, who seems to have a better tab on what's happening within baseball. And then he's hired all these people that on paper look like they could change things for the Rockies moving forward. So yes, 2025 will be remembered as one of, if not the worst years in the history of baseball, but I think it needed to happen. I think it needed to happen to get this stubborn organization to open their eyes, to change their systems, their thought processes, so that 2026 can be a step forward and we can never look back and we say, it's the new year, a new me, and we're just looking ahead. No more looking through the rearview mirror.
New Rockies. I love that. Because, yeah, when you think about it, when they lost 100 games for the first time in 2023, right? Then they turn around in 2024 and do it again. Mm-hmm. And going into the season last year, yes, they added Tyro Estrada, but there was no significant moves, whether in the front office or on the field and any of the players in the roster, that signified to you that anything was going to change. We all kind of hoped that maybe you catch lightning in a bottle, and Dick Monfort had a few comments here and there where it was like, he believes somehow, whether he's just telling us or like something in him believes this team is actually good. And then they go out and are historically bad. They fire their manager in the middle of the season. The highest point of the season, other than the few wins, was probably getting to draft Ethan Holiday.
Oh, absolutely.
And kind of set your future up with a top 3 pick in Charlie Condon in the minors. Now you have Ethan Holiday, star shortstop, son of a former, basically one of the all-time Mr. Rockies, if you will. Mm-hmm. And then they basically cleaned house after the year was over and said, all right, fool me once, that's on me. Fool me twice, that's on me. Fool me 3 times, it's finally on me, and I'm going to change something about it. And I do believe it's good. I believe that, hopefully if we're still doing the show in 2030 and the Rockies are like a legit baseball team, and not necessarily that they're winning playoff games, but they're every year you're like, oh, could the Rockies compete for a playoff spot? That's a point where we'll look back on this season and say, yes, I wish this would have happened in 2023, and we were in year 2 of this rebuild, but we're here now. Let's forget about what happened in the past, because it hurts. And if you want to, remember things that hurt a lot, then that's on you. But I don't want to do that. I want to just look forward and think that them changing the entire front office, them changing the entire pitching regime, them adding positions, which is something so outside their box, not only adding people from outside the organization, but literally saying, we're going to hire you to do this job that we don't even have right now. This is a job that we're creating for you to come over and do it. Shows significant change in the direction of the organization. And I think that future Rockies will be better for that, even if 2026 is, like we said, still going to be a struggle on the field.
And I completely agree with you. And look, I compare it to, if there's like a metric that I can use to point to say, like, I'm excited for the day that the Rockies are this, it's the Marlins. Like, if the Rockies could be as good as the Marlins were last year, where they flirted with like the wild card for a second there late in the season, and they still have plenty of flaws, I'll be excited for the day that the Rockies are back to that, right? Because it will show that you've got all this young talent. The Marlins, again, have a lot of flaws, but they have all these young guys that they've drafted and developed, and they have this process where you're like, hey, the Marlins in a couple of years could actually be a playoff team. They're on the path. They're on the right trajectory. I want the Rockies to get to feel like that again. I don't need a playoff appearance yet. I get that that's going to take time. I want to start seeing those kind of seasons. So that's what I'm looking for. And we're a couple years away from even being in that conversation. But I do think if they can get to where the Marlins were last year, and if they can get there within the next couple years, you'll start to really feel like this is headed in the right direction.
Yeah, and just seeing change from the roster perspective and change from guys that it wasn't just the roster that they were holding on to, the front office too. And so now the new front office doesn't have that connection to all these guys on the roster that the old ones might have. And as Purple Kool-Aid said, it was an overhaul that was 15 years in the making. It should have happened after Kelly died. And I feel like they just got caught in a very comfortable, hey, we're doing all right. We're, winning. They were winning 60, 70 games a year. They're kind of flirting with mediocrity, but they're not 43 wins. And this is the trump card that ultimately just took them and said, all right, we need to change something.
Yeah, I don't want to derail our conversation too much, but there's some news, not Rockies related, by the way, but that has maybe Rockies implications that I want to talk about here. I don't know if you guys have been following this. Anthony Rendon obviously fell off the earth, from a playing standpoint. Talent's no longer there. Everyone's wanting him to retire, but he's got a huge contract with the Angels. So the Angels, it came out earlier in this offseason that the Angels were trying to figure out a way to not get out of this contract because it's guaranteed money, similar to Chris Bryant, if you see where I'm going, but kind of restructure his contract. Well, it was just announced Anthony Rendon has agreed to restructure his contract with the Angels and defer $38 million that was due to him for 2026 beyond that season. Now, the reason I'm talking about this now is because I think one of the biggest holes that the Rockies have to figure out, the biggest problems the Rockies have to figure out is Chris Bryant. And there's been all this conversation about legally, he's not playing another game for the Rockies. The money's guaranteed, so you're not going to ever get out from underneath that money. But is there a way when you are coming off of a 119 loss season and you're rebuilding this team to say, can we defer $38 million like Anthony Rendon just did to later down the road or spread those payments out a little bit? You're still going to get the money, but can you help us out a little bit by deferring that money so that you can let us catch back up in a way? I think that would be, obviously, that would say a lot about Chris Bryant. But I do think the fact that Anthony Rendon did it, and for that amount of money, he's basically saying, I don't know what the exact details are, but for him to defer that $38 million that was due to him next year, that's a big deal. Shows that it's possible with Chris Bryant.
Yeah, we could do the Bobby Bonilla scenario and just pay Chris Bryant.
I'll take that.
$5 million a year for the next, at this point, it would be probably 20 years-ish, 15 to 20 years, but pay him $5 million a year and allow the Rockies to spend that money on a team or a player or something that will help the current team, because that is not it's just a giant blemish on your team, and you have to ask the questions and kind of what the answers are going to be. But the reality of the situation is the Rockies, especially the Rockies, like if the Mets had done this, it wouldn't be a problem. If the Yankees had done this and signed Chris Bryant, it wouldn't be a problem because they can overspend. They can just say, oh, we owe this guy $38 million. We made a mistake. The Rockies are in a different situation financially than a lot of these other teams, and they're a mid-market team where this legitimately affects, as much as we talked about the rearview mirror pushing it back, like Chris Bryant's sitting in the back seat. He's still annoying us in the front seat of this car. No matter if we look in the rearview mirror or not, that's going to affect the travel of the Colorado Rockies and where they're going for years while they're paying him that salary.
Yeah, and look, I'm saying this now. Chris Bryant, obviously and understandably, is hated by the fans in Colorado. He's done nothing to help himself out. He's, there's the article in The Athletic that came out, a couple years ago that obviously he didn't quite paint Colorado in the best light while he was here, and then his injuries. And I'm not here to shit on Chris Bryant, but what I will say is if Chris decided that he was going to defer this money, I do think that saves you a little bit of grace with the fans. Not that that's what he cares about. I don't know. But if that's something that's important to Chris, if he cares about what the fans think and I don't know, restoring some of his legacy, because his legacy is not ending on a good note right now, whether it's injury related or not, it just hasn't been good. That would be a very, very beneficial way to show the fans that, hey, I'm sorry this happened. I'm going to try to help you guys the best that I can. Obviously, he's not going to give up money, but if you can allow the team to defer some of that down the road, that clears up space now. It doesn't even have to be 20 years. Give me 10 years. Spread those payments out over the next 10 years, and that clears up millions of dollars each year for the Rockies to be able to sign. Just that's the biggest weight that the Rockies are carrying on their shoulders right now, and it looks as of now they're not able to get out of it. So if KB was able to agree to that, then that would be I would give major shout out to Chris Bryant for taking that one. But anyways, quick side note. Now I want to bring us back. New Year's resolutions. I want you to think about this as a fan, maybe in Rockies world, maybe for yourself, or as a team. If there was something that you think the Rockies should think of as a New Year's resolution, I'll start with mine. My 2026 Colorado Rockies New Year's resolution, personally, as a fan, I am going to allow myself one crash out over the team's performance. Just from a wins and losses standpoint, one crash out this year, which is going to be hard to get through. But I'm trying to look long term, look big picture here. 2026 doesn't matter from a wins and losses perspective, but I'm human. I'm giving myself one crash out. So you guys can hold me to it. I'm going to do only one time am I going to crash out about how the Rockies are performing as a team.
Well, and that's fair because to me, you can still you can crash out last year, and we did a lot because we didn't, not only was the ship sailing right into the port without it was just going straight on land, no gas.
Sinking,
But there was no direction. There was no, I feel like now we've talked ourselves into that this team is not going to win 100 games. They're probably going to win somewhere between hopefully 50 and 60. That's like a realistic realm, but we know it's going to happen, and we know that there is a path forward. There wasn't a path forward looking at it as they were losing and had the worst record in MLB last year, and you're firing a manager and you don't trust your GM, you don't trust your front office. There were so many issues that the crash outs were just consistent, and you just freaked out because you're like, I have no clue where we're going. Now we can have that crash out, maybe get, I'm excited to see how many infuriating losses we're going to have this year. There's probably going to be a lot, but that means that the Rockies are frisky. And that's my New Year's resolution as a fan or for the Rockies is I want the Rockies to be frisky. And I think it was Cole Lefty said in the chat, Rockies begin to take back the Coors Field altitude advantage. Just become fun. Yeah. That's my New Year's resolution. Become frisky and fun. Like, you don't have to win. 60 games will be great, but in those 60 games, have some just offensive outputs that are insane. Don't have any series like against the Blue Jays where they outscore you 45-9 or whatever in 3 games, and you just look completely incompetent. Have some fun. Have a good time. I want to have fun watching the Rockies again. Make the Rockies fun again. Doesn't mean they're a winning baseball team, but at least they're fun.
That's good. I like that. That's a good one. I also like Lefties in the chat. I will enjoy an order of Rocky Mountain oysters. I have had Rocky Mountain oysters. I've actually never had it from Coors Field, though. Have you ever had that?
I haven't had them from Coors Field. I love them, though. To me, it doesn't, I don't care what I'm eating.
No. I mean, it also doesn't look like, it's not like you're eating grapes in front of you.
Well, no.
There's slices and stuff. Yeah, but they don't taste that good.
No, they don't taste that bad either, though. There's a lot, there's people
there's better things to get at a baseball game.
Yeah, no, 100%. Maybe we'll do a DNVR Rockies taste test of the Rocky Mountain oysters on opening day or something. That's good.
I would love that. That'd be fun. I'm excited. I know I saw someone in the chat at the very beginning of the show say, is it bad that I'm missing this baseball team? And I'm like, no,
I am too.
I'm like, and it's funny because we have 3 incredible teams here, even without Jokic and all of our starters on the Nuggets. All of our teams are so good here, and the Rockies are just so bad. And yet here I am in the midst of all of our good teams playing at their peak, sitting here wishing that I was watching the worst team play. And maybe that's just me, and it's because we're all sickos. But I cannot wait. We only have a couple months until March.
Yeah, I think it's 6 weeks till pitchers and catchers report. We're already almost there.
So fast. It's been a good offseason. It's been a very, very good offseason. I am a little nervous about the Rockies not signing anyone yet. Maybe it's a topic for next show because we're running out of time. But I would like to start seeing the Rockies making a move or two for a major league player. I'll put that out there. I'm not worried. I'm not over. I'm not freaking out yet. We're not crashing out yet. Not breaking through that New Year's resolution that quick. But I would like to see something come down the
emergency
line
show if it happens
soon. Yeah, I would like to see something like that soon. So thank you guys for watching. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us. 2025, man, it was a hell of a ride. I know it wasn't all wins. It was a lot of losses, but you guys stuck with us. We appreciate you guys hanging out. This has been a lot of fun. Our little Rockies family in 2025.
I love it. I can't wait to see it grow in 2026. They start winning a few games. They make some moves. They get fun.
Can only go up.
Can only go up from here.
Love it. Thank you guys for watching. Enjoy your New Year's celebrations. We'll see you in 2026 right here on the DNVR Rockies podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.